you guys. I was thinking about what happens when creativity backfires. And again, we're going to pick on my poor neighbor upstairs. She's actually gone now. So if you didn't hear the story, I'll just do the brief part, but you can listen to the story from the last live I did. But my upstairs neighbor has a deck, a little teeny deck off of her apartment right above my porch. And she decided that she would try to grow sod, like real green living grass with dirt on this porch. And as much as that was creative, she didn't think about the fact that dirt would fall through down and it would probably rot the deck and it would do all sorts of things. And the landlord saw it and made her take it down, and the landlord actually ended up evicting her. I'm not sure why, but she's gone now. And it's made me think about what happens when creativity backfires. Because creativity is a very vulnerable process, right? So when we put something out in the world, if you take a photograph of something that you thought was beautiful and you put it out on Instagram and nobody clicks a little heart next to it, and you post it on Facebook and everybody's like, just took a picture of a tulip, awesome. No likes, no thumbs up, no, wow, you're a good photographer. We can start feeling really raw. And when we feel raw and vulnerable, it's really easy to just close down everything, right? Because we go into self-protection mode. The kind of fight, flight, or freeze kicks in when we've been exposed when we've exposed our vulnerable selves, and then it's backfired. And if you're going to be creative, if you're going to put things out in this world, it doesn't matter what kind of creativity it is, ideas, things you make, things that you think, things that you've written, whatever kind of creativity it is, your own thoughts, your own ideas, if we're going to be putting ourselves out in the world, as Brene Brown, if we're going to show up wholeheartedly in this life, that's how she puts it, we're going to risk being vulnerable. And one of the most common responses when we feel like our vulnerability didn't work for whatever that reason that was, maybe we felt rejected, maybe we felt like it didn't get appreciated enough, maybe we've seen other people post things and get a lot of responses on social media and we got nothing or not enough or whatever, and we just all of a sudden feel like we've been stripped bare. It's super easy to shut down and say, whew, yeah, tried that risk once, not going to do it again. Or maybe you do it again and you're like, tried that risk twice, not going to do that again. Or maybe you try something going a different route. Maybe you started one stay-at-home business and you weren't so great at it, and so you tried starting with another company and you put yourself out there and you tried risking and you were creative with what you were doing and promoting it, and it didn't work either. It is, yeah, Brene Brown is a huge blessing. I've read everything she's written and I've watched the Netflix special. So but creativity and vulnerability go hand in hand, and so that's why I really appreciate her work. And so, yeah, I'm bringing the conversation in here because I want to talk about kind of the harder sides of creativity, because it's easy for me to come on and say, go be creative, you can do it. Like, if you've never drawn before, who cares? Just scribble, or just pick up a paintbrush. It doesn't have to turn out pretty. It doesn't have to look like Van Gogh. It doesn't have to look like Monet. It's not going to. You're not Van Gogh or Monet. Maybe you don't even like either of their paintings. So good news for you. It's really easy for me to get on and be a cheerleader, but part of what I want to talk about, because of my psychology and counseling and life coaching background, is I want to talk about the psychology of what happens when we engage with creativity. Because if we don't talk about the hard side of engaging with creativity, I can go inspire a lot of you. You might do one thing and risk once and go, well, that didn't work. But again, I talked about recently that when we're looking, you're scrolling through Instagram and you see artists or you see somebody doing some kind of creative something that intrigues you and you think, gosh, I could never do that. You're seeing mostly like the highlights of their best work, or the things that they want to put out in public, or the things that they are willing to risk. You don't know how many piles of paper are on the floor that, you know, from paintings that they did that they didn't like, or how many photographs that they never ever printed because they didn't like them, and how many things, you know, just kind of got left along the wayside. We don't see most of that on Instagram. Most people don't risk and put everything they create on Instagram or on social media anywhere. So it's really easy for us to get into this comparison mode, and then it's really easy for us to get into feeling exposed, vulnerable, shut down, and then scared. And then it's really easy for us to then lock up our creativity. And I just think living a creative life is just so important. And we're going to keep talking about this on my social media platforms, because I really, really believe that creativity is an essential part of life. So what I want to encourage you with today is that pretty much what Brene Brown says about vulnerability and showing up in a wholehearted life. It's that if you're going to live you and be you and try some kind of creative endeavor, you will fail at times. Your painting will be ugly. Your something you post will get rejected, mocked, ignored. You will find flaws in your own work. You will have somebody that doesn't like what you do. You will have critics. We all have them. But the piece that's important is to not let that get inside as the truth of who you are and the truth of your creative process and where you want to take your creative process. So we need to set the critics aside, because really they don't get our attention anyway, right? It's important to decide who gets to speak into our lives on anything. And something that's really vulnerable, oftentimes we'll be very picky and choosy about who we let into our most vulnerable parts of our life, right? So if we're exposing something on social media, or if we're sharing even just with a friend, like, hey, I kind of wrote this manuscript, would you read it? That's really vulnerable, and that can be really scary, because if they don't like it, what do you do then, right? But I'm gonna continue to ask you to show up again anyway, and keep putting yourself out there, because again, just like I've talked about, creativity is a muscle. So is resilience. So is learning how to be resilient in the face of creativity failures, creativity bombs, creativity risks that we took that didn't work out. But the opposite is to like shut down and never try, right? So if we can choose that, we certainly can. But to me, that's a very limited life, and that's kind of a sad way to live. I'd rather risk putting things out there and getting like 2 likes, and that's my mom and my cousin, you know, like like that's okay. But there are some things that are worth risking, and I think tapping into what brings out the creativity in you and sharing that with the world, being willing to be vulnerable first with yourself to try it, and then stepping out to share it, is really important. And a piece to being resilient is to not listen to the critics. Shove them out. They don't get a say in who you are, in what you produce, in what you create, and what you are doing with your life, right? Katie, so you say you're struggling with the desire to be creative versus struggling with depression. That's a really good, thank you for bringing that up. That's a really vulnerable question. So yeah, let's talk about that for a minute, because here's what happens with creativity and depression. And this is, I guess, this is a great topic for this too, Katie, because that's a place, depression is a place where creativity can backfire on us. And what I have found is that depression is often a liar. So the messages that depression gives us, in my experience and with people I know, is that oftentimes depression will say things like, you're ugly, you're no good, you can't do this, you don't have the energy, you don't have what it takes, it's not going to turn out anyway. Why even start? I just want to sit on the couch. Exercise, I can't do it. There's a lot of depression brings on so many limiting thoughts that it is very hard at times to push past those. Yes, good, Katie. I'm glad this is resonating with you. I'm glad I'm understanding what you're saying. So yeah, depression will give us all those lies. And it's easy for like the doctors to say, well, get out and exercise because exercise is going to help you. Well, when you're depressed, what your brain is saying, no, I'm not going to get out and exercise. Are you kidding me? I can't even get off the couch to like feed myself, let alone get out and exercise. With creativity, my experience with creativity and depression is that if I can push past the lie that I don't have what it takes to be creative today, I don't have any ideas, I'm too tired, I don't want to make a mess that I have to clean up, it's just too overwhelming, I don't want to go there. If I can push past those, what creativity does for me in depression is it absolutely does a 180 on the depression. I've often joked with friends that that creativity is an antidepressant, but it's not really a joke. It's true. It's true for me. So I will often have to remind myself of times when I have engaged in the creative process, when I've been struggling with sadness or depression or things that are getting me down that make me feel like I can't do it. I don't have what it takes. In fact, right above my head, that painting, well, there's a lily, Easter lily sitting in front of it right now, but that painting right back there, I was really struggling one day with grief and sadness and depression. And I was praying and I'm like, God, what are we doing here? What's going on? What do I do? I'm in a funk. I've got to get out of this. God said, go paint. And I was like, yeah, no, you don't understand. I don't have anything to paint. I don't have anything in me. God was like, just get out the paint and finger paint. And so I did that. And I kid you not, it took almost no time and my mood had done a total 180. Maybe 5 to 10 minutes into painting and I was starting to kind of get in the groove and I was starting to enjoy it. And by the time I kind of got done, I didn't finish the whole painting in one sitting, but by the time I kind of got to where I felt settled and done, it had completely changed my mood. So if you're struggling with depression, I would encourage you to take one little step towards creativity. And or if you're like me, jump in the deep end and pull out the paints and a big canvas. but jump into something. If you can, force yourself to go there into that creative place, because it might very well be the medicine that your soul absolutely needs. So don't I don't like saying that because it's easier said than done. I was going to say don't believe the lie that you can't be creative because you're depressed. Because yeah, easier said than done. But if you can remember that depression lies to us. Depression does not tell us the truth about who we are or our process or our creativity or anything. It tells us all sorts of lies. Then maybe you can get up the gumption to fight it a little bit and go into that creative process. So I'd encourage you to do that. Yeah, whether you're struggling with depression or whether you're struggling with feeling like you're not good enough, when creativity feels like it's backfired on you, when you feel like you've exposed something to a friend or to social media that doesn't get as well received as you thought, and now you're feeling kind of closed down and scared. The only cure I know for any of that is to push back and jump in and do it again anyway. And pretty soon you'll learn that the critics, the lies, even your own self-criticism doesn't matter. So, Christine, you're saying that you have anxiety sometimes and that art helps keep you relaxed. Yes, yes. It does for me too, Christine. I can really relate to what you're saying. Like you guys will often see me posting mandalas. That's been a huge, which are kind of the circular patterns with a lot of detail in them. And I just kind of start with a small circle in the middle and I draw and I build out. You'll see them on my Instagram feed often if you're want to look me up over there. My Instagram handle is Modern Mess Princess, unless you're watching me live on Instagram right now. So if you're here, then you know how to find me here. But if you're on Facebook now, you know where to find me on Instagram. Or if you're watching on YouTube, this replay later, you'll know where to find me on Instagram. But so doodling for me is helps me with relaxing, getting my mind off of kind of the troubles of life and things that are creating anxiety. So again, creativity, it is so, I think it's so critical that I would love to like start a creativity revolution in this world where everybody feels the freedom that they can be creative in the way they want to be. So I'm just going to leave you guys at that. I love your comments. Thanks for putting them in. Thanks for your input tonight, and thanks for hanging out with me. And if you have any questions, any thoughts, always feel free to put them in the comments because I'm always looking for things to chat about with you guys. So I'm just grateful for that, and I will see you guys again sometime real soon. Have a great week. Bye.